Imagine that. Suddenly, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, wrote this memo, dated October 26, about new regulations regarding obtaining information from records of the news media and regarding questioning, arresting, or charging members of the news media. To be clear, this reaction by Garland may actually be all about the Project Veritas case. Was the FBI raid on Project Veritas journalists' homes, including the raid of my home last November, legal? Attorney General Garland now insists he is issuing revised regulations, which can be found here in Title 28 Code of Federal Regulations Part 50. In a stunning reprimand, prosecutors, including the ones from the Southern District of New York, will no longer be able to take it upon themselves to define what a journalist is and what defines news gathering. Remember that when the U.S. Attorney said Project Veritas are not journalists because we don't get permission from the people that we video record? Now this. Wow, what a coincidence. Recall the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York said this in court about Project Veritas, quote, Project Veritas is not engaged in journalism within any traditional or accepted definition of that word. It's reporting, they put our reporting in quotes, consists almost entirely of publicizing non-consensual, surreptitious recordings. And now this from the Attorney General after the federal prosecutors in New York wrote that from page 10 of the Code of Federal Regulations, paragraph 1, quote, when there is a close or novel question as to the person or entity's status as a member of the news media, the determination of such status must be approved by the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division. Number 2, when there is a close or novel question as to whether the member of the news media is acting within the scope of news gathering, the determination of such status must be approved by the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division. When the Assistant Attorney General finds there is a genuine uncertainty as to whether the member of the news media is acting within the scope of news gathering, the determination of such status must be approved by the Attorney General. So the two questions here are Project Veritas' status as a member of the news media and whether Project Veritas acted within the scope of news gathering. But to quote the Wall Street Journal in a headline, the FBI's raid on James O'Keefe, justice had better have good reason for seizing a journalist's records, quote, we don't agree or practice all of Mr. O'Keefe's methods, but what he does is reporting that qualifies as journalism. Even the New York Times reporting on this updated Department of Justice memo as it pertains to Project Veritas from the New York Times, quote, 2 investigations that span the Trump and Biden eras have raised questions about how the department defines members of the news media engaged in news gathering. The department also obtained search warrants for emails in 2020 and locations in 2021 associated with the conservative group Project Veritas in connection with an investigation related to its $40,000 payment for a diary that had been stolen from Ashley Biden, President Biden's daughter, during the closing weeks of the 2020 campaign. The group, Project Veritas, has pointed to First Amendment protections for journalists to justify its actions. It remains unclear whether or how the Justice Department interpreted its news media rules as applying to search warrants and data seizures aimed at Project Veritas over the matter. Now recall, the computer systems inside the Bureau, the FBI, they called us news media, and that information was leaked to Project Veritas, and we published that. To be clear, this reaction by Merrick Garland may be all about the Project Veritas case. Attorney Paul Cali wrote not one, but 3 different letters on this very topic. In the first 2 of these letters, which he sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland, he points out the raids on Project Veritas, and he points out subpoenas for 200,000 of our emails that violated Merrick Garland's own memo, the first memo that he wrote July 19th, 2021, that he just revised this week. Now, in the third letter that Paul Cali wrote to federal judge Annalisa Torres, Cali noted that according to A.G. Garland's own report, none of the raids or subpoenas were approved by Garland, despite the Southern District of New York prosecutors telling the court they complied when it appears they did not. To summarize, they broke the law. The raids were illegal, and this investigation must end. Now, we're approaching the 1-year anniversary of the raid, which happened November 6, 2021. I'm filming this a week from then. In a strange twist of fate, I am grateful to the New York Times. Reporter byline Charlie Savage, to be exact, thank you for covering this fairly and mentioning Project Veritas. We're also grateful to the ACLU for helping us out, writing letters on our behalf, and the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. Thank you for putting principles above partisanship. We may have more whistleblowers coming out. We already had an FBI whistleblower come to us with that memo. Stay tuned. And as always, be brave, do something.